Hello, and welcome to today's installment of Created for More, the podcast. And as you know, on this podcast, we are all about having conversations that elevate you, that help you step into your zone of more, your zone where you're doing more than you thought you could do, so that you can make impact in the world. Ultimately, we want the world to be a better place, and we want to equip you so that you contribute your quota to it. And today's conversation is one of such. Today's conversation is all about how we position ourselves such that we are relevant, such that we are seen, we're heard by the people that need what we carry. And I am going to be speaking with someone who has a wealth of experience when it comes to publicity, public relations, and personal branding, how we need to stand out and whatnot. Her name is Yetunde Ogunnubi, and she's fondly called Yetty D. She has over 17 years experience in PR and brand management, and she's an award-winning consultant. She's a leader in the fashion and arts space and in the corporate industry. She's got extensive experience actually, within the fashion area and marketing and image branding and event management. She's all sorts. I could go on and on and on about all the things that she has and all the accolades that she's amassed in her career, but I think you might prefer to hear it directly from her. Yetunde, it is wonderful to have you on the podcast today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. We've been wanting to do this for some time now, so I'm happy to be here. And let's talk and see how we can both, benefit from this conversation. Yeah, and everybody else as well.
Yes, of course. I'm always the first beneficiary. That's why I love being a podcaster, because I'm sat here and it feels like I am in school. I learn first and then obviously everybody else. But it's such a pleasure for me. Yetunde, I want to start from from who you are. How would you introduce yourself? I was reading your bio and you're just a cocktail of things, right? And that's one of the parts that I love the most about you, how you're just so original, you're just so authentic, you stand out. So I wanted to talk to you I want you to tell us about who you are in your own words. What is the essence of Yetunde?
So my name is Dr. Yetty Ogunnubi. I'm a PR consultant, a creative. I'm a creative soul. I tell people I'm a creative soul. A linkage. I link people up. My job requires me to have a lot of network, and I tap into my network for the goodwill of people I associate myself with, meaning it can be client, it could be an individual. I'm just a connector. I love to create as well. Yes, I'm a PR, I'm a branding and a communications consultant, meaning I help to shape people's brand. I make them look good. So essence of me is knowing that you have someone that backs you, that, yeah.
I love that. And have you always where did it all start with you in terms of how you started to self-identify as this creative? Was it when you were young? What was it like growing up? And how did you start to, quote and unquote, unearth your superpowers around being a connector and just, helping people?
I've always been a creative person. I come from a creative family. Both my parents are artists. And I remember back when I was young, I would, sort of my mom's curtains, was one of my tools to starting off my creative career. And for me, even though, when I was in secondary school, my principal sort of felt like I should be in science class. My dad then actually wanted me to have that art, instilled in me, obviously because they are artists. It doesn't really work like that in most
Yes, in most countries, in most places, most homes are like science, 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 science.
Science. So for mine was different, meaning when everybody else was taking 10 classes, I had to take 12 classes because I had to do my science, chemistry, then do arts as well as a course. So for me, I've always been creative. In my secondary school days, I had the option of being either the ed girl or social prefect. I went for social prefect. I mean, people would think that was crazy, but then for me, I just love creativity. I used to host fashion events between schools, inter schools, and invite them to our school. It's something I enjoy doing. Looking good, I would say I would say I'm fashionable, but fashionable in a way that I have my style. I believe in being comfortable, even though some people would say beauty is pain or fashion is not. I believe, I believe in, just looking good and feeling confident with what you're wearing. For me, fashion is like a sort of identity, which then in turn is a connector between my creative life and my PR life. PR is all about identity. Yes. So for me, identity is integral in terms of PR, in terms of branding, in terms of communication, in terms of fashion. I'm going to add fashion to it, on the creative side to it, because that's my primary element that makes us my agency, the YD company, stands out amongst other PR agencies in the country.
Oh wow, you have to unpack that for us, sis. You have to unpack that because I'm hearing you saying branding intertwined with fashion, with identity. I'm like, what is all that? Like, what does that have to? Obviously, what we're talking about on the podcast today is just positioning for publicity, like getting yourself into that space where people start to notice you. And what do all of these components have to do with it, and how do they all interplay and contribute?
Yeah. So if I hear your question perfectly, it would be, how do you position yourself in terms of PR? Is that what you said?
No. So you said that your company is your own PR blend is about branding, fashion. It makes you stand out. It's about it's about identity. So you call like 3 or 4 items. So I'm like, what do all of them mean, and how do they come together to support PR? Before we even get to how people can go into PR.
Okay. So branding is essential, because branding is something that makes you stand out. People can identify with you. Branding has to be sorted first before you can even start, storytelling on a brand. How do people identify a brand when you're talking about them? How do you push a brand that doesn't have a logo people can identify with? How can you push a brand that doesn't have a brand Bible? There is a mix and match of colors. There's no color identifying them. There's no tone to the brand. I can mention specific brands that even without you, maybe you see their icon logo, you can sort of say, okay, this brand is this brand. Obviously, I can't start mentioning, except if it's okay.
Well, you can actually
mention. I mean, a perfect example is maybe Coca-Cola, for example. There's a certain type of red that is associated with Coca-Cola. If you see that color, you'll probably be able to say, okay, I know this brand. Do you understand? They have a slogan that people can identify with. There is so many things about it that you don't need to spell out much before you identify the brand. I can also put that in an artistic way as well. Same as if a Beyonce, or even I'll mention maybe my African princess, Tiwa Savage. Yes. If Tiwa Savage, if you hear maybe a bit of Tiwa's music without mentioning her name, you can sort of identify her because of her voice and say, that is Tiwa Savage. Do you understand? And sometimes it can also be the lyrics as well, because people already know that, okay, this person's sound is this person's sound is the way she writes.
Like,
do you understand?
Simi.
Exactly, Simi as well. Do you understand? So for me, branding is essential. Identifying, molding how you want people to perceive the brand is one of the integral parts before doing PR for the brand.
Getting that and standardized. It does. Getting that standardized. And how about people that say, "But I'm just a personal brand. I'm just a, what do I like? How do I stand out? How do I? I don't feel there's anything unique about me that is brandable." What would you say to such a person?
I totally disagree. I feel like each one of us, it's just like our thumbprint. We all have a unique thumbprint. Nobody on this earth has similar thumbprint as anybody else. I mean, we have billions and billions of people in this earth. So for me, it's more or less like tapping into what you think may not be your standpoint can also be your standpoint, right? Me, for example, I think up until maybe in the last 2 years, I sort of identified that, okay, this is sort of my brand, because a lot of people consistently say that, okay, Yetty, from afar, we can identify you. Number one, you have your center parting is always something that is unique. You're always center parting. My style as well, my fashion style is possibly a mix of how will I say, contemporary, gypsy, comfortable. I love palazzos. So you may not mean anything to you, but it's sort of my own brand. Right? People can identify me from my back. I mean, I've had it several times. From afar, people can say, Yetty D. Do you understand? Even with my name as well. My name has become my brand. I wasn't born Yetty D. Yes, my birth name is Yetunde. However, nobody really calls me Yetunde. Yetty is what they call me with. Then I had a fashion label, Yetty D, and sort of people call me Yetty D, and that is a brand for me. So there are things that you have that may not make sense to you, or maybe that you can utilize and coin and make it, sort of a brand you. In my, okay, you want to say something?
I was going to ask, just when you say that your branding, your organization, your PR agency is known for fashion, what does that mean? Does that mean like when people come to you, you kind of advise? Because I love this, because this is you bringing all of you into what you do. You've always been known for fashion. I mean, when I knew you back then, when you were based in London, you were this like very small person doing like really big fashion shows. And I used to always wonder, is this the person responsible for this kind of big fashion shows? So I love the fact that, and I feel like it's something that we should also explore, the fact that you don't have to lose yourself when you are evolving into your next. You can also bring everything that is you into your next thing, right? So I wanted you to talk to us about, that process of adding fashion into PR. Like, how have you been able to, why did you decide to do it? And how have you been able to make it work?
Okay. So as you know, you rightly said, my background was fashion. I started off as a fashion designer, metamorphosed into having fashion a platform where I showcase other people. From there, I remember Ronke Ademluyi, Queen Ronke Ademluyi of Ife. And now she's the convener for Africa Fashion Week London and Nigeria. I remember her when I moved back to Nigeria. We worked a few times in the UK with one of the projects that I helped Uber Africa platform to help Africans in the diaspora in the fashion space. I helped produce that. And when I moved back to Nigeria, she was one of the first people. I bumped into her twice and she said, Yetty, have you considered doing, PR communications? I would love to have you on board as a communications director. I'm like, how? I'm just a fashion person. But she said something, you have different elements to you. Yeah. Me honing up my fashion label, luckily, I had to wear many hats. I was my own creative director. I was my illustrator. I was my website designer. I was my communications person. I loved doing newsletters. I was my own marketer. I would, reach out to fashion buyers, reach out to fashion platforms to sell my brand. In hindsight, those are the things that prepped me. Like more or less, my brand was a case study for me to become what I am right now. You understand? So from there, she said, I see what you do with your brand. I see what you did with Uber Africa. You were the ones coordinating the fashion element, the press element. We had a press person that, a PR person that more or less disappointed us. I had to step into that. So me being selfless to my business and somebody else actually kind of navigated me into this role of communications director for Africa Fashion Week, Nigeria. And from Nigeria, the UK version, then, they had a meeting and said, oh, Yetty's doing well with Nigeria. Can she do communications director as well for the Africa Fashion Week London? And at first, like, okay, I don't intend to move to London back at this point. I want to stay in Nigeria. It's like, but you don't have to. So let's just say before COVID, I started working virtually.
Yeah.
So like 2015, I became communications director for Africa Fashion Week London, doing everything from Nigeria. I remember then that people would say, yes, you're in town. You haven't called us. I couldn't tell people I'm not in town because I don't want them not to attend the event because, they assume, okay, Yetty is not in town. But it was a success. People didn't know I was not in town. From there, people sort of, brands started reaching out to me to help them with their brands and stuff like that. But the key element is how did I transition? I have all the skill sets from building my own brand as well. You saw the fashion shows we all said. It was a singular person pushing all this, from designing the invite to, getting people to attend, to negotiating with the spaces. Mind you, most of the spaces we used back then, if I tell you that I didn't pay for anything, I did not pay for it. So for me, I think I have the gift of, gift of goodwill and gift to understand what to say to people to get them interested in what I'm about to do. So that has really helped. And I think that mindset has also shaped me into being, I would not like to blow my horns, but good at what I do
sister.
What myself and my team do at the Yetty company. That case study, that more or less sort of shaped me, do you understand, into this PR side of things. And I said something that what stands us out is that creative element. I'm first a creative soul. A PR person can be a writer. All you need to be good at is, writing and making sure you're able to, put the best foot forward for the brand. But I, on the other hand, I'm creative. So in terms of branding, things that would push the brand in the right way, I have that element already. then we're known as a storyteller. I love telling stories. I love to see, we're in that age whereby people easily get distracted. So if there's so much you're writing, people will lose interest. So you have to find better ways to tell stories about the brand, both in writing and both in visuals. We play a lot with visuals. Even before we start any process with our client, the first main thing we check is that the logo is on point. The brand has a brand Bible. The brand Bible sort of sets tones for everything else, meaning the fonts to use both on the website, newsletters, any communications that is being sent on behalf of the brand. The colors, you can move away from maybe 3 certain colors, 2 certain colors, or maybe a color as well. So that way, when people keep seeing it, it registers in their brain that, oh, that is Pier Harbor. Oh, this is Lagos Continental. Do you understand? So it applies across all the platforms that is owned digitally and offline of the brand.
Why is it important for people to start thinking from a PR dimension, even if they aren't like massive organizations or necessarily people who are maybe, known? Because sometimes you think it's people that are known that want to be more known. Why should the day-to-day person who's listening to this podcast start to be, why should this be important? Why should PR be important to the day-to-day man who's listening to this podcast?
I think mainly is all about where the person or persons, where they see themselves. PR is all about positioning, right? And PR is not just for people that are at a certain level. PR is actually for people that is, the people that are looking to attain a certain level. So for example, if you are currently maybe, how will I say? I'm trying to give an executive of your business or a business that you're working with. You want to position yourself in a way that will make you not only valuable to your company, but that you're working with, to see you as somebody that is bringing value to the business, not only necessarily with what you're doing, but how people perceive you and places you're being seen at, right? Everything is all about being intentional. Meaning if, for example, you want to be a thought leader in your industry, you want to be seen at events where you're joining panel sessions, you become a panelist, or you are writing thought leadership articles in the newspaper, for example, or you are, let's even just start with your Instagram, LinkedIn. Those are also can be a PR gimmick, really. You being intentional about what you put, you being intentional about what you say can also kind of elevate you or elevate your career. So PR is all those elements that people see outside, the perception people have of you, sort of positions you and sets a tone for where you're going to. Yeah.
So is this something that people should self-manage, PR, or because you talked about Instagram, LinkedIn, or at what point do people start thinking, actually, maybe I should get a PR firm to support me? Like, what is that determinant that makes it more needed to go out of your, to actually get external people on board?
I think to start off with, it depends on where your career path is, right? Or the level you are at. PR doesn't come cheap, right? Yes, agencies like mine and some do have maybe like SME packages and stuff like that. However, there's some element that you can start off with. I mean, I've just mentioned, just setting something right for your platforms, digital platforms that you own for LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. You're mindful of what you put out there. You position those are more or less like backgrounds to helping, a PR firm at a later time, right? PR, like I said, it doesn't come cheap. You don't want to be spending so much money on, to start off with. There's so many things that you can do to start off with. I can tell you that, yes, you should have a PR firm. No, I would say to start off with yourself, building your own, building your own image, the way you want people to see you. I think the first starting point. But if you're in a space where you work with an organization, or even if it's your business, you're a CEO, you're MD, you're COO, you're a manager, I think you can have a PR firm sort you out.
So Yetty, PR is all about perception building, perception management, right? It's about managing how others perceive, right? I mean, what should people be thinking on a practical level about their perception? Like, how should we, do you just sit down and what's the beginning? Like, do you just sit down and say, my name is Tombra, or use me as a case study, right? My name is Tombra and I work on, I'm a podcast host. I do a host of other things. Do I sit down and say, this is how I want to be perceived? And then I start working on it and seeing the platforms that I can, like, what is that process like?
Okay. So for someone like you, for example, I wouldn't say you are maybe, you're not a top executive. You're in a sort of a managerial side of things. So you should actually seek advice from a PR person, because you've more or less set a tone already for yourself. Maybe you haven't noticed. You've already identified yourself as a podcaster. You already I've been to your page. You're sort of intentional about what you push out there. That doesn't need so much direction. What then needs direction is then you identify which platforms are your most useful tools. Do you understand? Based on what and services that you offer. Me, for example, I would say, Tombra, I think your primary platform should be a LinkedIn, because you deal a lot with business-oriented people. You deal a lot with business owners, industry thought leaders. So you should be in a space where they are. You need to be seen there. So I would position you into, that formal, avenue where both your consumer and your clients, can I call them clients?
Yeah.
That's their level playing field. That is where they're seen. That is where I would position you. Then I would make sure that, your business profile speaks and says what you are marketing as well. Meaning, the kind of thing, the kind of write-ups you push out there, focus on the business owners, right? Or people that want to learn a lot from your guests, basically. So I think it's more about, identifying the platforms that work for you, the way you want people to see you as either a business, a podcaster, an entrepreneur. You can always put you as a wife or mother, but I always say that in a professional point of view, just stick to what you're offering and let people see you the way you want them to see you. For example, I would say my Instagram is different from my LinkedIn. My Instagram, my own personal Instagram, is actually personal. It's more like my softer side. I want people to know that, I have other personal goals aside from my business. People think I'm very serious-minded, right? I want them to know that I have a foreign life as well. That is my Instagram. I'm very intentional about what I put there. However, on my LinkedIn, everything there, it's professional. It's my professional life. I promote my clients there. I talk about my industry there. I talk about my achievement there as well. And I can say that the amount of people that follow me or request from me are people that, okay, they either need a PR service or a brands, they're looking for a brand communications person. Those are the kind of people that follow me, right? So it's you just being intentional about the way you want people to see you.
Okay. Just as we close, thank you so much for all of that. Just as we close, I wanted to talk about leveraging other people's platforms, because everything we've been talking about so far is more, platforms that we pioneer ourselves, LinkedIn, Should people, what is the protocol for leveraging platforms like maybe online publications or maybe even physical media houses, television? Should we be pitching? Like, what's the protocol for all of that? And at what point should we be doing that? Is that something that we should be doing from a PR standpoint? What would your advice be?
Okay, regarding that, you having a sort of presence on media platforms, I think it's something you can do as an individual, but it's always best for a PR person to help manage that. Being that, take for example, we're in a society whereby people actually do not read as well. We are in a society that people are quick to push out stories, right? If you do an interview, for example, with a media platform, and they twisted some of your answers, you possibly will find it a struggle for them to make corrections, really. But if you have a PR firm behind you, even before things are being pushed out, they will request that, okay, let me see it, right? And they can make correction even afterward as well. It's easier for a PR company to help rectify issues or bad image on the social platform. And I also tell people that if you're not ready to be seen, do not go there. Some people want a private life, but they want to do interviews. The moment you start putting yourself in a public space, you're granting interviews, you're already opening yourself, your personal life as well, because people will start digging, really. For me, in the process of also elevating yourself, you need to build your digital footprint. And I tell people, social media isn't the only platform. If social media crashes right now, that means you're nowhere, right? I always tell people, start off with having your own website, your own hub, where people can always go back to find the true information about you. So even if somebody twists something, by the time they go to your own platform, meaning your website, your correct information can be seen there. Then you have platforms like blogs that you can utilize as well. You can send articles there. I know there's so many blogs that are looking for content as well. So, for example, I would say if you're into healthcare, for example, and you want to be known more in that space, there's platforms like maybe Guardian or Business Day that they have health section. You can contribute there. That way you're building your digital footprint. When people Google your name, those are the things that will come up about you. Do you understand? So those are little ways to more or less, position yourself, to be honest, in the press. And and you can also then progress into doing TVs or radios. I believe in utilizing everything, but like I said, you have to be ready to be in that space to push yourself there.
Amazing. Thank you so much for giving us a schooling in public relations and media and just getting out there. My final question to you is, why is it important for us to get our messages out there, for people who have more in them to get to be seen and heard?
I think the perception for me is this. You also need to think about it that if you have been given a knowledge, if you have a knowledge, you need to pass it across. And you can only pass it across if you push yourself out there. Some people like me, for example, I said I'm self-taught, but I gained knowledge from other people, either on a platform or attending networking event. I was able to absorb people's knowledge. So for me, it's just think of it as your journey, having a vision first. Where do you want to see yourself? You want to see yourself in a place where you're on the same table with thought leaders, or you want to see yourself as, some of us, I won't say us because I'm not part of those people, that believe in when you've been given a talent, you utilize it, you let people see it. People can only see and know, identify you. I see we're in a culture right now where people celebrate mediocrity. They celebrate things that are not beneficial, because people that are achieving or doing great things are not exposing themselves. They're not talking. They're not being seen. If you have that, nurture it, push yourself out there. Let other people benefit from your knowledge. Let other people see you as someone they can aspire to be like. We need more people that are doing great things to come out and position themselves.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you so much for closing us out. That was brilliant. And you guys, you've heard the charge. I want you to go out there and make sure that you are seen and you're heard. It's not enough to have more on the inside of you. It's not enough to step into your more. You also have to ensure that the people who need what you carry can identify with it. And that's why today's episode is so important. Thank you so much, ma'am. Amazing. Awesome, awesome, awesome.